Hello, it's Cryptolyze. I hope you are well on this Wednesday, 6th of September, 2023. It's with pleasure I meet you today to talk about SOL, the crypto of the Solana blockchain. As usual, we are going to dissect this video in two parts. A fundamental part, we are going to come back to what Solana is, its news, and then we are going to attack the technical part to project ourselves in the short, medium, long term on prices of purchase, on sale prices, and it starts right away. Solana is a level 1 blockchain. It is an infrastructure blockchain. Clearly, its aim and principle is to provide developers with functional building blocks to be able to build decentralized applications. This is the very principle of this type of blockchain. Its particularity is the invention of proof of history. The concept of proof of history makes it possible to reduce the number of transactions necessary to validate a transaction. Let me explain. Historically, when we look at Bitcoin, we need to validate all of the transactions upstream to verify that this current transaction is good or not. On Solana, you only need 2 transaction days. A big advantage, but at the same time a big disadvantage. This implies that to run a Solana node, we need, yes, less storage space, but we need a lot of computing power, and especially to have disks that are used very frequently. Okay, so we have, for example, a change of NVMe disk. So there is a type of very fast SSD hard disk, which is a flash disk, which is used approximately every 6 months to 9 months on a Solana node. This is why it is very expensive to run this type of node, up to 3 to 4 euros per month. So it is something that hinders decentralization. Despite this, we see that we have more 2.0 validators. It also goes between 2.0 and 2.500, depending on the periods. But we must understand that the principle behind it is based on the law of Moore, according to which precisely the costs linked to these execution costs will decrease because the technology will evolve. Speaking of technology, the consensus is a proof of stake. So we have something that is net carbon impact, which is rather positive. We have an SDK, therefore a development kit for developers, which is very comprehensive, in which we find absolutely all the different technologies. We do not, on the other hand, have something that is EVM compatible. So that was true before. Now with Solange, it is no longer the case. But historically, Solana, you have to understand that it is not a 9 compatible. That means that we could not port an Ethereum application to Solana, and that was the big obstacle for Solana. Despite that, Solana was the big winner, finally one of the big winners of the last bull run, because it managed to bring together an entire community and specialize in this notion of NFT production. We will discuss a little later without having a compatible EVM. Now, they are EVM compatible thanks to Solana, which mainly allows you to port applications and write in Solidity on Solana, which has a big advantage. Before, we had Neon, which was another blockchain that revolved around Solana, which allowed us to do that. There it is incorporated into Solana, so it is really very positive. Then we also have the Saga, that is to say that Solana has launched and continues to launch into mobile, the goal being to make available mobiles which are specialized for the execution of the blockchain. So to go further, it's not really the goal of launching a mobile phone, it's to leave a mobile stack. That means behind a development kit to build decentralized applications on mobiles. And that's something that's sorely lacking and something that we're going to need for mass adoption. As long as we don't have that, it's going to be complicated, and it's a good thing that we have an actor like that getting into it. Is this a good motive? I do not think so. But the fact of launching into it shows that there is an investment that is being made, and we will have to follow how it will evolve. The other particularity of Solana is its specialization in NFTs. It is really a blockchain which has very, very low costs and very high scalability, although it has had problems on several occasions, which we say in the jargon that the blockchain has gone on vacation several times, this which was the case, and this is one of Solana's problems. It is its notion of stability because they are testing something new, going for ++, and precisely the goal being to go for transactions per second, which would exceed 50 transactions per second. And as a result, this ideology which has been grafted around has transformed Solana into a machine for producing NFTs. It is a bit of the idea in which we regularly have Solana, which exceeds Ethereum in the production of NFTs. And it's very important to see it. It's really an approach that is becoming more pronounced and strengthening little by little. And that proves precisely that Solana has found a strong place in the ecosystem, which is rather positive for Solana. Speaking of Solana and the ground, we attack the technical part in which we have something classic, which we find with a period of accumulation before having the bull run, which is divided into 5 phases, who are also very, very well divided with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heliotists, ABC retracement, simple, and currently we find ourselves in the lower part of this ABC, which is also found in an accumulation. Here, this called the sign of weakness. This sign of weakness, which is the sign of weakness of a global reaccumulation and a distribution, it is mainly both. When we look, we will just focus a little on it. But we have a BCR ST. The ST took the liquidity of the BC, so we is indeed in a large-scale reaccumulation, and in which then we have a BCRST and a sense of weakness. So we are in a reaccumulation which is found in a distribution. So we are in something rather classic. And in this sense of weakness, in this accumulation of weak off, we really have the part that we find of ranging specific to the end of a bear market, in which we enter into a phase of depression, a phase of lethargy. And that's exactly what happened here, in which we have in something with a course which is totally crushed. The other point which is important to note, and which I did not say in the fundamental part, but which you really have to see, is this red candle. What is this red candle? It's FTX. We must understand that Solana, what was really criticized against Solana at first, was that it was the blockchain of the vicious. That is to say that FTX had invested enormously in Solana. So the notion of decentralization was called into question, and precisely the fact that FTX collapsed led to a big crisis for Solana. And they managed to recover from this crisis despite everything that happened, and precisely the advantage is that they are no longer linked to vices. In any case, their biggest vices have disappeared, and a release of tokens has been carried out. So here we are, really in this process where we have a Solana, which is even, we could say, more resilient than before the FTX crisis. And so much more resilient is that I didn't talk about it in the fundamental part, but I talked about it in the daily news today. We have a Solana, which is used by Shopify as a means of payment. So that was decided 2 weeks ago. And we got the news that Visa also uses Solana and is pushing its USDC in addition to Ethereum on Solana. So we really have an attraction which is being carried out at the level of Solana, which is rather positive, despite the fact that we have no reaction at the price level. Little candle there, very little green one that we see. That's the impact of the news on Visa. Normally, if we were in a bull run, we would have been somewhere around there, okay, around 30 minus $40. So we would have had an upward reaction in terms of the price if we had had that. So this shows that we are really in this phase of depression, a phase of depression in which it is often characterized by a form of ranging. We have the upper part and we have the lower part, which is located there. And for me, this ranging zone means that we are certainly going to go and test the lower part. So retest the $12 here, or even go and make a bearish checkout to take the liquidity, or retest the liquidity of the fall of FTX around $10 or even a little lower. Why not in the $7? What I call the golden zone. If we ever really enter a recession in the USA and we find a BTC around 18.0, 15.0, we will have a Solana which will be around $7, $8. And so there we will really have a purchasing opportunity for something which is rather ball. When we see that we have Helium, another blockchain which is encumbered on it, technically and fundamentally, we have something which is rather solid. What we're going to expect here is really going to be a break of this upward range to make a confirmation and leave like that. As long as we don't have that, in fact, we can't say to ourselves that we're starting to rise again. So that means that we will always be in this ranging zone forever until we do this. Break and this break, there we will have a signal to tell ourselves that in fact we have the implementation of a bull run in order to be able to accelerate. So speaking of acceleration, what are the targets that we can set on Solana? For me, the first two, which are really very important, it's going to be one, here the breakup of the 47. Clearly, there are a lot of people who are overexposed to $47. So we're going to have a lighter debate, which will be quite strong. It will really be a resistance, which is very, very difficult for me to overcome. 45 up to 50, it's going to be really very, very hard. And we're going to have people who are going to take profits when we buy at $10, or even when we've already bought around 10, even or even less when we have made the perpetual, because on the perpetual, we had gone down to $7, in which we were able to invest massively and keep in the shadow. For those who clearly hold, we will have massive profit taking. The second point for me, really important, that will be here, the $150 retest. $150. Clearly here is this acceleration of 2022. Many people in Ventera Luna are still stuck between $100 and $150. When we get to $150, we will have a reduction in the rings and a capture of profits. And on this, we will have to monitor. This will be the crucial point. Yes or no, we have a Solana, which keeps its ecosystem and which develops its ecosystem with a specialization in NFT. At that point, we will have something that will break upwards. Otherwise, we will have a retracement, and there we will have to take a profit quickly. Otherwise, in the long-term targets, considering that we find ourselves on a Solana, which finds its place, which has a return, users, which has a community which develops and which really has a specialization, and we become on a protocol which is profitable. We can aim for a goal of 1.618 at the end of the next bull run, a wave 2. So a classic 3 Heliotis wave with a target between $400 and $450 seems completely coherent to me. As a reminder, we made $250 on the previous bull run, in which we had a capitalization of 70 billion. So we could aim for a capitalization of around 140 minus 150 billion for the next one. Bull run with an injection of liquidity, which would be carried mainly by institutional investors. We know that we have ETFs that are being prepared on BTC, so that means that we will have an influx of liquidity on BTC and therefore behind a transfer of liquidity to altcoins to see indeed if precisely Solana will be able to sustain this during the bull run. I hope you liked this video. If so, don't forget to leave me a like and a comment. It supports me and it always makes me very happy. And if you really like this video, I'm sure you'll love the one I made on Ethereum, in which I explain the important points for the development of Ethereum, the key levels. I'll put the video there for you, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.